And thank you for inviting me here. I've been looking forward to this. And Mike, thank you for investing a day of your life to come and be in this session with me. My commitment to you and my promise to you is that I'll try to make it worthwhile so that you can take something away from our discussion today and our conversation we have today that you can bring back to your practice or that you can bring back to your personal life that hopefully can make a difference. What I want to talk about today is a variety of things, but focusing on making a connection between your practice trends and your personal life trends. And my basic belief is an observation that I've learned in 33 years of working with dentists and teams is that practices grow when the people in them are growing. And you know that to be true. And conversely, practices flatten when people aren't growing and even go into decline. And so I want to talk about that today with you and talk about personal rejuvenation and enlivening our lives in ways that are important to us by updating our vision for the future and so on. And I also want to talk with you about the impact that has on your practice. So we help people go through a planning process. When we get together with a new client, where we typically begin is well, first of all, I've made the observation over the years that people who do well with practice transitions, first and foremost, seem to do well with life transitions. And these are just a few illustrations of life transitions: getting married, getting unmarried, moving, a new career, birth of a child, an empty nest, the oldest child going off to kindergarten or school full time. Any kind of change is what I'm talking about. Any kind of change that impacts us personally, that changes a relationship, that changes something that in our lives that we have to then deal with. And we all have very different levels of skills in terms of acquired skills, in terms of being able to deal effectively with change. And so that's something that'll be a core theme today as well as we talk about things. When we do life planning and practice planning, it's important to connect them and make them congruent. Let me give you an example. I just have been working with a general dentist in California, and my client lives in a suburb of Los Angeles where this eminent domain thing is rearing its head. And they have been contacted by the city government, and they have to be out of their practice by the end of the year. There are some intense negotiations going on in terms of what kind of an economic event that's going to be for them, in terms of being reimbursed for the move and all of that, and that seems to be getting worked out. But here's the interesting thing. There are 3 dentists in this practice, and my client is the majority owner and by far the most productive of the 3 dentists. The second dentist is his brother, who is a minority partner, and the third dentist is a longtime associate of about 15 years with no ownership. Okay? So they've had this practice model set up for a long time. So somebody comes, the government comes and says, hey, you've got to move. And you've not only got to move, you have to move in this time frame. And he said, this is not exactly what I had planned for being in my early 50s, because they have a beautiful office now and they can no longer occupy it. So the natural thing to do, of course, is to just go ahead and find a new spot and either build a building or outfit a building and create a new suite and go move into it with the threesome and with this huge team and so on. And that's exactly what he was going to do until they contacted me and said, we'd really like to do some life planning. We've heard about you from other clients, from friends of ours who are clients of yours, And we'd like to do some practice planning because we feel like this is a real critical, pivotal moment in our lives. We want to make some good choices and good decisions. So we just spent our first session together. And what happened out of that was quite remarkable. Here's what I asked them to do. I sent each of them what I call a personal profile. And a personal profile is simply an essay feedback instrument that asks people questions about themselves and about how they essentially view the future and what they would ideally like in their future lifestyle. We ask them all kinds of questions about who have your mentors been, who has influenced you in your life, what do you see for your future as far as opportunities, possibilities, what things in your life right now in your lifestyle would you like to eliminate or get rid of, and so that each of them set about to fill out this questionnaire. And I asked them, as I do everybody when we work with them, to fill them out separately without comparing notes. And you get some interesting things that come back that way. I mean, it's impossible, first of all, for a couple, any couple, to sit down and just align on everything and write out your future goals together. The best way to do that, by my experience, is for me to write mine, for Ruth to write hers, and then for us to come together and share them, and then put something together that we can agree on. That makes much more sense. So as they did this process, they came to the conclusion that they didn't want to bring the whole gang with them and recreate somewhere else what they had now in their current setting. Because what they had now had some things in it and some elements in it that they didn't like, such as one extremely productive partner and two far less productive partners, and some real difficulties in their arrangement in terms of how they share income and expense. And so the result of the planning and of what they came together with is that they're going to go off and do a solo practice. They're going to take some of the team and do a solo practice in a smaller space than the big one they have right now, and the other guys are either going to hang together or hang separately and go off and do their own thing. And that's yet to be determined in terms of what will actually happen with them. But this is the time to split and go different directions. And the point of my telling you this is that by going through an updated life planning process, they got themselves to a place where they were feeling like they needed to do some updated thinking and sat down and did it. And the result, the condensed result, was that they were going to go in a very different direction from where they had been headed.